My name is Joe Vaughn. I'm the coach at Scarsdale High School in New York from the New York Diocese. And this year, I have the honor of being the chair of the LD division at the 2025 NCFL in Chicago. And I wanted to just welcome you to the tournament. I'm still back in New York, but I'll be welcoming you when we get on site on Saturday and Sunday morning. So I wanted to go through a couple things. We're going to be sending out a lot of information, but I know sometimes that's a lot of words to digest. And so I wanted to put some highlights out there for our judges and coaches so that everyone knows the procedures and what's going on, and most importantly, where to find the information that they need so that we can be successful this weekend. So what does it mean to be successful this weekend? That means providing a tournament opportunity for our students that is both competitive and educational, that feels fair, and it feels like we're working together towards the same end. And that's the end we're trying to do. We're trying to crown a national champion and do that in the fairest way possible. So let's go through a couple of things. First, the resources. Um, in order to best participate as a judge at the NCFL tournament in Lincoln Douglas debate, you really need to have an internet enabled device, laptop computer, something like that, because we're using our information system is entirely electronic, and that is tabroom.com. So I'm just going to share my screen and we're going to go over and look at tabroom.com. So hopefully everyone is familiar enough with tabroom.com. This is what, when you land on the page, go to tabroom.com, it looks like. And we are, of course, the NCFL Grand National Tournament in Chicago. If we click on this link, um, you can see the general information there. This will eventually populate. There will be other tabs that will be open right here where my cursor is that will talk about pairings and invitation information when the tournament becomes live and active. Right now, since there are no pairings live, we don't see any of those things. So there'll be more stuff that is here. But really, for our purposes as judges and to access ballots and to get our best information, we need to be logged into tabroom.com. So if we look up here where my cursor is, the login button, I know I'm not logged in right now because all I see is login. So I'm going to go to here and I'm going to use one of my Tabroom logins. Um, and now I know I'm logged in, and you know you're logged in because you will see your login email address there. And so one of the number one problems that we have when people are not getting the information that they need is because the email address that they use to log in is different than the one that we see. So if you see here, I'm registered as a judge for Lincoln Douglas for this tournament, just so that I can show you what this looks like. So we can see that I am due to be a judge at NCFL Grand National Chicago. And there's my name. And we can see also that I'm in for Lincoln Douglas. The way I know that is because down here in my pools, it shows that I'm in the LD doubles pool for Sunday. We'll come back and talk about that. So we'll be able to see that I am indeed. So you'll see actually where I'm signed up to be a tab person, yours will say Lincoln Douglas. That way you know you're signed in. If those things are not true, we may have a different email address than you do, and that's actually very easily resolvable, but it is something that you can check, and the way to resolve that is to contact the LD helpline, and I'll show you where that is in just a moment. So during the course of the tournament, this is where your ballots will appear. Right now, no ballots are available, so we see nothing on the screen, but if we go here where I can click on the word upcoming, I can refresh to see if ballots have been made available by clicking upcoming, or just by clicking on my name again, that refreshes the screen. Doing the refresh the way we normally refresh web pages doesn't do it. So you refresh tab room by clicking on your name or clicking upcoming, and that lets your ballots refresh. And so the information will pop up there on the ballots. So that's really important to know where your ballots will appear as a judge. The next most important resource that I can show you is the Lincoln Douglas Live Doc. This will be made available to you later this week. We're still in the process of building it, but I wanted to show you some aspects of it because it is going to be an invaluable resource. So the first is right at the top, it has contact information where the judges room at each of the sites are, and we'll go through the logistics in a moment, where the tab rooms are, what the LD tab room email is. This number right here is wrong. We'll get that fixed by the time we publish this. how to contact the equity department. We'll be updating this document with announcements as things happen. Like, for example, if we know a round is running late because we don't have all the ballots yet, we'll be putting information out there in this area. So having access to this live doc is really important for understanding how the tournament is going to function. It's going to be the primary way, other than tab room blasts, that we'll be communicating with you. It also has information on our locations, more on that later, what the Wi-Fi networks are like, and what round procedures are, as well as the schedule. So really good, valuable information there. This is going to be your main source of information for Lincoln. Oh, apparently the period's over for Lincoln Douglas debate over the course of the weekend. So the live doc is so important. So the last piece of resources that I wanted to talk to you about was the fact that we will have someone um, or someone's sitting in our judge pooling room at all points during the tournament while the tournament is active. So you'll always have access to someone on our team that you can talk to live in order to try to resolve problems. And if the person at that table is unable to do that, then they will contact one of us who are in the tab room to come and help you out. So the main point here is we want to make sure that you have all the information you need to feel that you are successful during the course of this weekend with what your obligations are to meet as a judge. And we're going to try and meet you there by making it easy to contact us. So let's now talk about logistics and expectations. So where will we be? On Saturday, we're going to be at the Hilton. So there's two major tournament sites, the Hilton and the Palmer House. On Saturday, we're at the Hilton. Specifically, all of our competition rooms for Lincoln Douglas debate are going to be on the lower level in salons A and D. And this is going to be one of these situations where we have a big ballroom where it's partitioned into curtained cubicles. So that is the setup. Every Lincoln Douglas room is exactly the same in terms of that. So we will be in salons A and D. Each of those cubicles should have a power strip in there so that people have access to power during the course of the rounds. They might have to move tables closer together if you have judges and competitors that need access to power, but we trust people to be able to work that out. Our judge call room, which is where you would go if you are not assigned a ballot during a round, more on that in a second, is in the Normandy Lounge on the second floor of the Hilton. On Sunday, the tournament for LD moves over to the Palmer House. All of our rounds are going to be in the conference spaces up on the sixth and seventh floor, and the judge call room is going to be in the red lacquer room on the fourth floor. Once again, all this information is going to be on the live doc, but I just wanted to go through those things. So now let's talk about the flow of the day. Saturday. I'm going to be honest with you. Saturday, I kind of think of the Saturday of the NCFL tournament and debate is one of the longest days of the speech and debate a year. There's a lot that has to get accomplished during the course of that day. So it's going to be really important that we stick rigorously to our schedule. And so a lot of our procedures are about making sure that we can fit in what we have to fit in, which is 5 double-flighted preliminary rounds of debate. It's a lot of debate to get accomplished in a day, and therefore we really have to stick to our procedures. So what do I mean by double-flighted? So there's 5 rounds, and each round has a flight 1 and a flight 2. So if you're assigned to judge, you will be judging 2 debates within the course of 1 round. So it's the flight 1, round 1, the flight 2, round 1, for example. And I'll talk about what that flow looks like in just a second. I know at some local leagues you don't do double flighting, so might be a new experience. Based on the number of judges we have and the number of judges we need, it is likely, no, it is actually guaranteed that everyone will get at least 4 rounds, which means 4 double-flighted rounds, meaning 8 debates, and a decent chunk of the judge pool is going to get all 5 rounds. So I just wanted to be really honest with you up front. I know that's a long day, but that's just the way the tournament has to function. Otherwise, it doesn't work, okay? Because we have 3 judges per round. And so that's going to become an important feature. So what happens during the course of the round? Well, what happens first is that we send out the blast, the tab room blast. And on the live doc on the schedule, it tells you what times to expect those blasts at. We're going to try and rigorously hold to those as much as possible. Certainly, we will hold to those for round 1 and round 2, since those are the preset rounds. And so those blasts will go out at a very specific time. Um, and therefore, that's your cue to go to tabroom.com to refresh your tabroom screen to see if you have ballots for those rounds, right? Um, the messaging feature with Tabroom can sometimes be unreliable. So we're not going to rely on getting messages from Tabroom. We're just everyone needs to assume that they have all 5 rounds worth of ballots and start checking to see if they have ballots at that time. So if you go on to the tabroom.com, refresh your Tabroom at the appropriate time, and you have ballots, great. What you're going to do is you're going to immediately click acknowledge ballot, right? That lets the tab room know that you have a round. So don't wait to acknowledge the ballot until you get to the room. The second you see that, acknowledge the ballot so we know that we don't have to push that ballot to someone else because we need to start on time, which means we need to start pushing ballots before the scheduled start of the round so that we can stay on time. If you don't have a ballot, you are on standby. So we don't have to tell you you're on standby. Everyone's on standby if they don't get a ballot. So when the scheduled start blast time of the round happens, one of two things is going to happen. You either will definitely get a ballot or you will definitely be reporting to the judge holding room. So for example, remember on Saturday, that judge holding room is the Normandy Lounge, and on Sunday, that's the Red Lacquer room. So you don't have to wonder, what do I do? It's going to be one of those two options. Everyone has something to do at that time when we blast the rounds out. Okay. So, um, and then what we would ask you to do is if you have a ballot, 10 minutes prior to the scheduled start of the rounds, please be in the room, not heading to the room. It's a large space. You should be heading to that room after you receive the ballot so that we can start on time. As I said before, if we on our end see that ballots are not started or acknowledged, then we're going to have to start replacing it. And it's always very frustrating for people when they're like, but I was in the room. How come I got fined and replaced? I was here. It's a huge tournament. So if we need you to acknowledge that ballot. That's your way of telling us that you know that you are ready. Okay. Um, so next, when we're talking about it, we've acknowledged our ballot, we've gone to the room, and we're getting set up. Remember that there are 3 judges. So don't start unless you have all 3 judges. On your ballot, it should tell you who the other 2 judges are, so you don't have to wonder who you're missing. And we're going to take attendance of the students. The students are being informed to be at the rounds 10 minutes prior to the scheduled start as well. So everyone is being told the same thing. We are moving back to codes this year rather than the way we've done the last couple of years with the school name. So that's going to be a bit of a shift for a lot of debaters. Debaters aren't used to using number codes at most tournaments. In some places they are, but in some places they're not. So we anticipate that some students may go to the wrong place. So what we're going to ask everyone to do is take attendance really specifically, right? So one judge, when everyone's there, says on the affirmative, I believe we should have code, and then say the code. And then on your screen, your ballot screen, you'll see the kid's name. So you should say that kid's name. And then on the neg, we have this code and with this name. So just be really explicit with that so that we cannot have any problems. If you have a kid in the wrong place, we will have staff on the floors in the salon area and just send them out into the hall, into the areas, and flag down a member of the LD staff to assist that child to get to where they need to go. If you are missing people 5 minutes prior to the scheduled start of the round, please contact Tab. There is a text number and an email address on the live doc. So you would contact that number or that email address, and one of the staff will report in order to help out. Um, it's important to note that only I, as the chair of the division, can forfeit students. So individual judges can't do that. Members of my staff can't do that unless I give them explicit permission. So that staff member is going to assist you in trying getting all the people. And if they're not able to do that, then I will be summoned in order to do a forfeit, but only I will be doing that. So during the course of the round, the maxim that I was always taught by those that taught me this activity was a good judge is a silent judge, right? Only speak to take attendance and to make sure everyone's in the right place and to move the round along. Because like each judge has to individually make their own decisions, and when students see judges talking to one another, even if they're just exchanging pleasantries and normal niceness, Kids are paranoid, right? And they'll assume that you're colluding with one another in making the decisions. And we want to just take all of that out there. Also, in terms of pleasantries with the students, we shouldn't be asking students what school they're from, what state they're from. We all come to this activity with unconscious bias, and kids will assume maybe that you're trying to fish for that information and that might activate some portion of bias. So we're just going to leave all that aside. I know that people think that I'm just trying to be friendly, but we don't know how the students are going to take it. And we're really trying to not create an environment where one student feels they have a competitive advantage or disadvantage because of some piece of information. Okay, so please let's keep the chit chat to a minimum in that place. During the course of the round, if a student reads a piece of evidence, that student should be prepared to share that evidence with the opponent if they ask, or after the round with the judge if the judge asks for that piece of information, either on paper or there is a way to do that electronically. The method for doing it electronically is illustrated in the live doc. So if that's of interest to folks, you can read the information there on how to do that. During the course of the round, the kids generally are timing each other, but it's a good practice to have one of the judges also timing it just to keep everyone honest. At the end of the round, as I said, if a judge wants to call for a piece of evidence, they may. That's totally fine, but you cannot ask any questions about it. You're just calling it to read it yourself silently. Don't show it to the other judges unless they specifically call for that piece of evidence as well. Okay? So at the end of the round, after any judge who wants to read any evidence has called for the evidence, then dismiss the students. There's no disclosure whatsoever at this tournament. You will make your decision independently and enter that in on tab room. You'll enter points. You can go down to the tenths of a point. We'll talk a little bit more about points in a minute, and your decision, win or loss. There are no low point wins and no ties in points at the NCFL National Tournament. What we would really ask you to do is in the box that says reason for decision or RFD, minimally what we would want you to write is something along the lines of, I am voting for the A for an egg, so write A for an egg, whose code is, and then write the code with the name, write the name, and then some reason for decision. Okay. That is a good double check for us so that we can make sure that if there's any problems later, that we have a double check with the points in the decision that you entered. So you'll see your flight one debate. You'll dismiss those children. You'll make your decision to flight one. You'll call in the flight two, and you'll do the exact same thing. And then it's really important that you not leave that assigned room until you've entered both of your ballots. By the way, um, just in the sake of being expedient, I know a lot of people like to write extensive comments to kids. You can always go back and edit your ballots later, right? Or be typing during the round. But we really need the points, the decision, and that quick line in the RFD box as quickly as possible. And then if you want to elaborate on your decision later, you can go back in and edit your ballots until about like 10 o'clock the next day, okay, from Saturday to Sunday. So, what is the topic that the children will be debating? The Lincoln Douglas topic for the NCFL National Tournament is civil disobedience in a democracy is morally justified. Now, you may have thoughts and feelings about this topic, but for the course of this weekend, we're not going to be making decisions based on your thoughts and feelings about the topic. You may think one side is right and one side is wrong. We're going to ask you to shelve that for the course of the weekend because it really makes it difficult for a kid to hear something like, I don't know how the AF could ever win this, and the kid is on the neg. So, first off, we're not communicating with the students in that way. Second, even when you're communicating with other adults later on, kids are overhearing things. You don't want to say things like that. Even if you feel that, we're asking you to take that feeling, put it in a box, and put that box away. And you can reopen that box on Sunday because the job of the debaters is not to debate the idea that's in your head, it's to debate the other student in the room, right? The kid is debating the kid. They cannot debate the voice in your head because that's not going to be an active participant in the round. Because the question here that you are deciding in terms of making your decision is not, is kid X or kid Y right? It's not the question we're asking. The question we're asking is, did kid X debate better than kid Y, right? So that means that your opinion about the topic is not as important as seeing how those ideas clash. Obviously, you bring a wealth of experience to the question. You can listen to things and you're making evaluations about what arguments are more persuasive than others. But we don't want to make arguments that the children don't make. Like, oh, if the kid had made this argument, I would have voted for them. When no one made that argument in the course of the round, that's a little difficult for a kid to deal with. So always base your decision based on the clash within the round. When you get a ballot, you can actually open up the ballot, and the judging criteria is right there on the ballot, as is by the way, the exact wording of the topic. So you can look through the judging criterion. If you want to see that ahead of time, you can go to ncfl.org and go to the bylaws, and you can see, or the ballots, and you can see the ballots there, so you can see the judging criteria. Also on the ballot are the speech times. I know some people haven't memorized the exact LD speech times. It's like the phone number, right? 637-3463. I always have to think about it for a second. That's right there on the ballot, so you don't have to memorize that, as well as the speaker point scale that we are going to be using for the course of this tournament. So here's an interesting thing about speaker points. Different tournaments around the country have entirely different standards for speaker points, and that's totally fine. We're asking you at this tournament to use the speaker point scale that's published on that ballot, because we can't have kids being judged by different standards. So you look at that, and it looks like the speaker point scale goes from, I know it's a 30-point scale, and people are like, well, why are we restraining it? We're kind of going to stick in that 26 to 30 range. Below 26, you're telling the children that they've been rude, racist, sexist, homophobic, transphobic, whatever bad thing that they did. That's what we're reserving below 26 for. The way I want you to think about speaker points for this tournament is if you look at the second two numbers, right, like drop the two, like a 29.3 is like a 93. So it's like on the A minus A border if you were judging it, if you were grading it like a paper. So if you give a kid a 27.1, you said to that kid you earned a C minus. And so that's going to be the uniform speaker scale that we want everyone to be using during the course of this tournament. Like I said, it's right there on the ballot. So, all judges are obligated for all rounds on Saturday, as we talked about. Remember, at that time that we said we're going to blast the pairings, either you'll have a ballot or you'll be going to the judge holding room in order for replacements at that time. So everyone has some obligation. And then once all the rounds have started, if you're in the holding room, we'll release judges from there. So that's the way that Saturday is going to function. What could cause a delay in the tournament? Obviously, or not obviously, I should never say that because that's a replacement for a good argument. For rounds 3, 4, and 5, they're paired based on the previous rounds. So we can't publish round 3 until we have all the round 1 and 2 ballots. Then we can't publish round 4 until we have all the round 3 ballots. So a single ballot can really hold us up. The problem is that we really can't change the start times of the round. So if we can't blast when we want to blast, what that's going to do is reduce the prep time between the rounds. We really have to start at the scheduled times that we have on our schedule. Okay. Now Sunday. Unlike Saturday, where everyone has the same obligation, different judges have different obligations on Sunday. What happens is your diocese, based on the number of competitors that your diocese, not your school, your diocese is bringing in Lincoln Douglas debate, has a certain number of rounds that they have to supply judges for elimination rounds on Sunday. So that what your diocesan director has done is they've divvied up that obligation amongst all the LD judges from your diocese, right? And so we need representatives in the playoff round, the double octafinals, the octafinals, the quarterfinals, the semifinals, and the finals, right? And so you can find out what your diocesan director assigned you by, let me go back to sharing my screen. Here we go. Right here, I put myself in, but let's pretend my diocesan director put me in the LD doubles. So that is my only obligation for Sunday. So some people might have 1 or 2 rounds, some people might have 3 or 4, some people might have all 6. That's up to your diocesan director. So you should be able to log into Tabroom now and see what pools that you're responsible for. And once you know what pools you're responsible for, if we go to the schedule, that tells you when we're releasing pairings for your particular pool. So it'll tell you specifically what your schedule is like on Sunday. So for me, If my obligation was double octafinals, I would want to be in the Palmer house prior to 9 o'clock because I know that pairing's going out at 9. And then I would click my start button, and then I would go to the room at 9:20 if I got a ballot. And if I didn't get a ballot, I'd go to the red lacquer room, and then those rounds would start at 9:30. Okay, so that is the way it goes. So your obligation on Sunday is determined by the pools that you're in on Sunday. So you can go and look at that right now. So please, once you notice that, notice the blast times for your pool and make sure you're at the Palmer House prior to those blast times so that you're ready to click acknowledge ballot. Same protocols during the course of the round. 3 judges per round, except once we get to semis, then we move to 5 judges. Okay. Once again, I just want to re-emphasize there's going to be no disclosure at this tournament. So the students who are advancing in elimination rounds will find out once we have all the elimination rounds of a particular type done, like all the octafinals are done, we'll publish the winners for the octafinals, and then the people moving on will know that they have another round to go. So that's the flow of the tournament. And I just wanted to say before we get that much further, thank you so much for being agreeing to be a judge for this tournament. The tournament could not function without the good graces of people wanting to give their time and service to our students, and we really appreciate that. So I hope that you find that and my staff are approaching you with that sense of appreciation. We're trying to problem solve. We're trying to make sure that the tournament is functioning smoothly so that the children get the experience that they signed up for, that they qualified for. One last thing, you received an email from Charlie Sloat, the operations director from the tournament, about anti-bias training. I talked a little bit about that before. So if you could sometime in the next couple of days, click on that link that he sent you, look at the materials, and then fill out the form that they have. So that's what we have. The tournament will be sending out the live docs once we have finished them so that we can be giving you that information and communicating effectively with you all weekend. So thank you so much, and I will see you in Chicago.